weiß Bescheid. Intendo.
Welcome to the most forward-thinking, inspirational podcast on the planet. Prepare to reevaluate everything you've been taught.
They have the power. We have the numbers now. It's all just a constant illusion of control. They break us like horses.
And they can tell us we're crazy, and we can say, well, you haven't seen anything yet.
Everything you knew was a goddamn lie. Put you up and explode like it's the 4th of July. Possessed by perfection in this land, if you're awake, you're the enemy. Where they lead, you will follow. Well, I guess that's just the way it goes. And if you look away, you'll be doing what they say. And if you look alive, you'll be singled out and tried. If you every day a new deception, pick your scene and take direction, and on a search to connect, but I don't wear a mask and I have no regret. Down on your knees, you don't look so tall. Open your eyes and the empire falls. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Mental Mastery Alliance podcast. It's been a minute, not really as long as it's been in the past. We've been pretty systematic about trying to get these suckers out twice a week. We've even recorded well into the future. Right now, it's not quite July 8th, but that's when you're going to be hearing this. And that's kind of a lot of fun. I have with us today an old friend, a near and dear friend. You can catch up with some previous episodes that I've had this current guest on with us. We've had him on episode 65, episode 112, and episode 138. So he actually represents right now 2% of all of our guests. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the show, Brian Staveley and his Mandela Effect genius.
Thank you, brother. And we did a show on my channel as well, Your Awakening interview. So we've done 4 shows together, at least.
We've done the Awakening
That's
interview.
cool.
We've done, there was another one where I was part of your panel. I was on one of your shows. So altogether, we've put in at least 10 hours worth of entertainment for the people.
Yeah, man. And I like coming on here. I'm glad that it took us a while to get back together this time, but we've both been busy with life and stuff. So I'm sure we'll touch up on that. But it's always a good time to talk with you, man. I appreciate you having me on.
For sure. You're a solid dude, man. You're nothing but entertaining. You know, nothing if not entertaining, I should say. Just drifting past your page every now and again, I see you defending and you fighting and people shitting and all this sort of stuff going all over the place. I'm like, fuck, he's up to his old tricks, this guy. But yeah,
I don't give up, man.
No,
I don't give up.
And we'll talk about that too, because there's been a huge shift, at least maybe from my perspective, but I'm seeing a huge shift in what people are talking about and sort of, what hills people are dying on, that sort of thing. But before we get into that, you and I had a mutual friend. It's certainly in the ethos of this whole sphere of things. Mac Parhar passed away, and I don't know if there was ever anything that sort of came from it. But this guy was, to anyone that knows, he was a front runner in the anti-everything movement, and he was always right on the front lines. And he passed away in his bathroom, and I think it was a heart attack or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's what they ruled it as, a heart attack.
Was there anything you would know more than me? Maybe you don't, but was there anything that was anything more suspicious about it? Or did anything ever come of it? Or was there any whispers in the wind of what it might have been?
Never heard really anything else to it after that. After that was released, as far as the cause of his death or anything like that.
Well, as far as a whirlwind, man, that guy, he was right at the front. And it was interesting to watch and to witness and to be privy to. And then he was gone. So, I guess at the end of the day on that one, rest in peace, Mac. And thank you for all that you did.
Well, he was one of the most outspoken people against the whole bullshit that's been going on for the last 2.5 years or however long it's been. So, it's a really big loss, he really stood his ground as much as just about anybody, and put his face out there. And most people don't have the courage to do that, and including most people that look into these topics and know that the things being presented to us are all lies and know that things are all effed up. Most people still don't take that stand, though. Most people don't put it all on the line. But Mac did that.
He really did.
He lost his business. It obviously caused trouble with his, at the home life, as it does for all of us, for the most part. We all go through stages of that, but we don't all lose our business because we're taking a stand and not complying to. And he could have rolled over like every other business owner did, pretty much, but he didn't. He said, no, I'm not going to just close my doors for you. This is ridiculous. Yeah. And it is ridiculous, man. The whole COVID thing, and if it's just absolute insanity. The whole world went crazy like overnight. And now it's the cool thing is to be a complete pussy. That's the cool thing in this world. Be a complete pussy. And that's all by design too. It wasn't just COVID. They've been feminizing the men for years leading up to this. And it's very apparent. Nobody has any balls to stand up for anything.
Yeah. No, it's very true. Back to Mac, he lost his yoga shop right away because he's like, this is bullshit. He was also one of the very first people to denounce the hospitalization. He's like, this story is false. I'm going to the hospitals to prove it. And he did. He went in. I've noticed too that, on a lot of my episodes, if the word COVID is mentioned, there's a tag. So even on my podcast episodes, Spotify is putting up a tag that says for COVID information.
Oh, wow. I didn't know. So I'll try and, use the code.
Oh, it's too late now. I'm not worried about it because I've never been one for censorship.
Yeah.
Plus, me, my entire career, I've been going up against the censors. So
I didn't know they were hitting you like that. I knew they were starting to censor podcast stuff. I didn't know that they were tagging you with COVID tags on Spotify. It's just
it is crazy. Yeah. It's like to the point. And here's the thing too. Like I'm not even sure right now if I can pull myself from Spotify. Right. Or if I want to, like if those numbers affect anything. Or who's listening to what, the Spotify numbers are really good, but I'm sure if all of a sudden I wasn't available on Spotify, the audience hopefully would find us somewhere else. We're everywhere. But Instagram, Spotify, those things are just a peculiarity. But yeah, so you're right when you say Mac was the first, the forerunner. And even me, you're talking about putting your face out there. Like even this podcast before we went started, I said I don't use the video for this yet. And a lot of that stemmed from what I was talking about pre-COVID, right? Because here's a plus to COVID. We're in the process right now of waking a lot of people up to a lot of things. Yes. And I really do understand. And I like that. I guess, the best way to put it is through extreme pain, people are waking up and people are seeing a lot more. But prior to COVID, for example, I would talk about all kinds of things that were essentially, free thought. Get yourself right, get your mind right, sort of understand that what we've been delivered isn't 100% accurate. And I took a lot of flack. I took a lot of shit from a lot of people, a lot. And that, what those people are like. There's some people that are just trolls and there are some people that don't understand and don't comprehend. And there are some people that just want to attack. So, the first few episodes we did video, we were on YouTube and then YouTube turned on us. Well, YouTube didn't turn on us yet, but the people were like, just, rude on YouTube. So I'm like, well, we're not going to do the video. If you want to comment on the podcast, that's good for traction. But now I think it's kind of more time to sort of, definitely get our faces back out there. And I know a lot of people that are in this movement that are putting their faces out there now. And they all had sort of the same idea. as me. Like, why would I risk saying something and sort of having my face out there when you know full well that the bots, for example, the bots are going to put you on blast, and the algorithm is going to put you on blast.
We need to show everybody that we're not backing down from none of it. And, you know, like, it's like when I tell people, like, we need to show people that, like, it's okay to have these conversations, like, everywhere. You should be able to have these type of conversations that me and you have in public and not have to worry about, hey, who's listening around, because this is what people actually do. There's a lot that, like what you said about COVID made me realize, like, there's a lot of people, even if they still believe in the politics and stuff and they think COVID's real, but they think it's an overreach and there's enough lies involved that they're ready to hear a lot of other ideas about deceptions.
Yeah.
You know, now's the time for guys like me and you to put our faces out. I mean, I've been putting my face out there for a while, but for everybody to put their face out there, their name out there, and also to initiate conversation with these people in public, you know, because we have a responsibility. We know, like, you know, just like I know that you're going to put this on your podcast, and however many hundreds or however many thousands of people will listen to it. Same thing when I put it on my channels. Like, we know that there's like this community, different communities. There's all these people that think like we do, at least in some aspect. A lot of these other people, they don't even know about like YouTube chats and your podcasts and your forums and all that. Like, they're just completely like think that they don't have anybody to talk to. So that's what I do. Like, when I talk to people on the street now, whether it's COVID, Mandela effect, whatever it is, you know, right when I think that they're engaged enough that I'm going to hand them my business card, the first thing I say to them is, there's a whole bunch of people that think like us, and there'll be 100, 200 people in this live chat, and you can call in. And that, I think that's powerful for them.
Yeah, that is. And that's a lot of that is how we've done it too over here. I mean, the Mental Mastery Alliance, first and foremost, is helping people understand themselves in a world that hadn't gone as crazy as it is now. So, you know, when you talk about echo chambers, and that's not a derogatory term when I say it, because people have used echo chamber as a derogatory term. What I'm saying is an echo chamber is guys like you and me right now in this conversation. We're going to talk and we're going to say some stuff back and forth, and you're going to say some things that are going to open my eyes to a couple other things. I'm going to be able to extrapolate and be like, oh, dick. And then this will be that. And I'll pick up on a few other things. And hopefully the same goes back and forth. So that echo chamber, when two open minds are speaking on a topic that is well-versed between the two of us, which we are, there's new information that will come to light, and there's new whatever that will be shown. So I'll be able to see and understand something better. Right. But to people that don't understand this, and to all the audience members that listen to this stuff, they love it. Now, just like you're out there on the streets talking to people, my Instagram account, for the most part, is motivational. It's kind of a skew. It's motivation adjacent, because it's definitely like, hey, free thought, but also like, don't beat yourself up. And that kind of stuff gets people to pay attention as well. And then they're like, oh, it's like, you know, motivation, truth bomb, motivation, truth bomb. So digitally, I'm doing my best to pull people in as well and get one or two more people. Because when you mentioned the 100s or the 1000s of people that listen, I was thinking, yes, I love my audience. I absolutely adore my audience. These guys are the greatest. And I think that if we talk about something in a certain tonality or a certain respect with regards to something that they're interested in, the listener, they might then say to somebody else, hey, listen to this podcast. Hey, check this guy out, because this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm saying. And this is what you're talking about. And just so you know, people aren't, you know, you're not the only one thinking these things. Here's a couple of guys talking about this, you know, ad nauseum about certain things and certain stuff. And the way I look at it, every single thing that does come out and every single thing that does play and every single talking point that we get is an opportunity to understand and comprehend something else a little bit better, something else a little bit more in depth. I mean, prime example, today. So whenever we're recording, this won't be today when we go live, but so to those listening, at some point a couple weeks ago, R. Kelly got sentenced to 30 years, right, for child sex trafficking. And this was like, here's the thing, you know, the timeline. R. Kelly lives through the 90s. Everybody under the sun, whatever. Remember the whole Dave Chappelle thing where he's like pissing on the kids, and they made jokes about R. Kelly being, you know, all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And so, and nobody batted an eye. Every single person just accepted it. Hollywood accepted it. Everybody accepted it. Everybody knew R. Kelly was touchy-feely. Everybody knew he had proclivities for 15, 16-year-olds. I don't know that for sure. I don't know if there's any proof of anything. Now he's been arrested. He's been sent to jail for 30 years, whatever. I don't want to just, I don't want to cause a step on you. Anyway, the thing about that is we've got R. Kelly. Multiple things have taken place here. It's now obvious that he was doing something. It's now obvious that everyone knew he was doing something even back then, because again, the jokes existed in the early 2000s and nobody did anything. So now he's in jail. So now we understand that there's a systemic problem. And now, and people are like, oh, I can wake up to that. Oh, I can add that. Or I can see that. Wherein before we'd be like, these celebrities are doing these things. And people are like, well, there's no proof, right? Now, on top of that, a couple of days ago, Ghislaine Maxwell got 20 years. And she was literally the right-hand man, if not the main procurer for an entire list of people for the whole Jeffrey Epstein thing. And so R. Kelly comes in and gets 30 years. Ghislaine Maxwell gets 20 years, and she gets put on suicide watch. And the list that she has, she was convicted of child sex trafficking. In other words, they had a long list of people that she trafficked to, and none of those people have been brought up on anything. But now, court of public opinion and court of public appeal, people will start putting these things together. Why did R. Kelly get 30 years? Why did she get 20 years? Why was that a thing? Why can, and people are just going to start asking more and more questions. And then we get to what's, referred to as, I'm sure you're aware of, the 100th monkey on a lot of things, where the grand and overall consciousness of people understanding and comprehending what's going on starts to shift. And I firmly believe that we're already past that.
You think it's already on the upswing?
I think that the ball's been pushed, and I think that more and more things are going to come to light. More and more things that seem inconsequential now, but will turn out to be pretty monumental moving forward. A ton of little notches will turn into something huge. Yeah. Do you think you're seeing it in your community? And like in your specific community, because you're a voice for the Mandela and
man, I mean, I'm pretty frustrated, honestly, to tell you the truth. I see a lot of people putting that line in the sand on a lot of things and not wanting to move forward. That doesn't go for everybody. I mean, half the people are great, and want to keep the conversation going. But man, you try talking to some of these truth content creators about the Mandela effect, and they completely glitch out, man. And they're irrational, and the way that they go at it, and the way that they are willing to just throw away everything, all their senses, all their experience and everything. Because what I found is people get really married to certain topics, and then they form new paradigms. And then if you throw something else in there, like Mandela effect, which will obviously question any paradigm you might currently be in, that's it. They feel maybe threatened or something. So I will say, on a positive note, though, I have seen some of the upswing in family members. One of them I kind of expected wouldn't go along with the COVID and everything, but the other one, he's been getting pretty vocal about all of it, and he still buys into the whole Trump thing and all of that, but not buying into really too many of the other lies, at least as far as COVID. And some other things. So I've seen some people, honestly, dude, I see it more as like a separation. You see it as like an upswing. I'm seeing a very stark difference between two groups of people, and some people are going deeper and deeper in the hole, and other people are coming out of it. Like, cause it's almost like split down the middle. Like my mother's side of the family, my dad's side of it's just really weird, dude. I don't know. I just see some people that are just completely lost and are never coming out of it.
I think why I see it differently is because maybe I was once one who got locked into something. And I remember, actually, I'm not going to say maybe, I was absolutely somebody who found something new, some new bone, latched onto it, and that was it. And it was, at the time, it was also, it was indicative of my breakthroughs. It was indicative of my level ups. And, like Flat Earth, for example, I met you through, and this is the funny thing, like and I'm drawing a blank. I don't even remember the guy's name. And this was a guy that.
It was ODD, wasn't it? Didn't
Yeah,
you say
ODD. Yeah, there we go. Right. So I met you through him, and this guy was like the first guy that ever made any sense to me. And this is way back in the day. I mean, I'm talking loose change, zeitgeist days. And when you look back on that sort of stuff, you're like, fuck, zeitgeist in and of itself was a psyop. It was basically a truth sandwich, you know. And it's kind of funny when you sort of look at this stuff and when you start seeing these things, because the flat Earth to me was a great eye opener. And then I think, because that was my foray. And what I mean by foray, I mean, like, I understood and I had questions when it came to 9/11. I didn't believe this stuff. I didn't believe, you know, certain stories just didn't make sense to me. They didn't line up to me. So I was always curious as to why they would say what they would say, but I was never out of the matrix. I was just aware that something else was a thing, right? Yeah. And when we get to flash forward to flat Earth, I remember a friend of mine introduced it to me. And I'm like, you know, I've all heard about it. And then I sort of got into it and I'm like, fuck, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And it made so much sense. And, you know, small things like water doesn't bend, small things like, why is the moon visible in both Australia and Canada at the same time? You know,
why does no profession in the world account for this curve of spin of the Earth and everything just works? I mean, that's a good
exactly. Why is the Coriolis effect something that people take into consideration, but that nobody actually ever does? People don't even think about the fact that, you know, the airport that you're headed towards when you get on a plane is moving the entire time you're in the air. It's changing direction, or it's changing position. So,
the ground's spinning at you sideways at 1,000 miles an hour in some places. I mean,
it's coming at you. Yeah. And allegedly, right. And there's no difference in spin from when you're standing on the equator to when you're standing at the North Pole. Also, the sun's 93 million miles away. But a little tiny cloud will take away its power. You'll get cold if there's just a little tiny cloud there. It also loses all of its power between the equator and the North and South Pole. Right? It just all of a sudden it's winter at the poles, but it's hot as hell at the equator. 93 million miles, and then that little gap between the equator and the pole that can't handle it.
Ices everything down real quick.
Yeah. It's just shit that doesn't make sense. So, you know, people can believe whatever they want to believe. You know, and then now so here I am, you know, and I'm like, okay, well, Globe Earth is a scam. And then I start talking about flat Earth, and I was like, that's a big thing. Right. And it was that knowledge. It was that thing that you knew something. So you sort of, your own egoic stance plays into that. And now, like, I don't know what your thoughts are, but I don't believe in quote unquote flat Earth anymore either.
Well, I don't like to attach myself to anything like in that sense, because like now the question is the Earth even physical at all? Like, exactly. Like, yeah. Because with what I'm seeing, you know, supernatural reality shifts, it throws physical matter completely into question. It throws time completely into question. At least all the ways we were taught these things completely out the window. And that includes whether you got brought up with like what type of scientific background, or even when you throw out your quote unquote scientific background, then you're doing your own things and other topics like flat Earth or these other things. No, it's different now. It makes me wonder if in some sense, some of that didn't explode when it did, to cover up the fact that this reality is fluid. Now, stick with me here. Like, you got two paradigms. So you've got the globe Earth paradigm, right, which is full of lies. It's, you know, complete nonsense. Mm-hmm. Then you have flat Earth. And granted, yes, water's level. You can see way too far. It's definitely not spinning like the physical Earth that we stand on. But what it's done is it's made so many people get trapped in a mindset that, well, since they've been debunking the globe with physical measurements and things like this, they think that they have to be able to measure and equate something for it to be real. Well, that's not the case at all with what's happening to this reality. And I've actually found now that after 4 years of making Mandela effect videos, I've been looking at both of these topics for about 8 years. But Mandela effect really took my interest over a lot. In about 2017, I was kind of done being interested in flat Earth, even though I agreed with a lot of it, you know, because this is just way more like next level. 100%. Yeah, it's a gateway. And this is way more next level. And then now what I've seen is so many of people don't want to connect the dots to the Mandela effect because it doesn't fit in their flat earth paradigm. Well, I'm sorry if it breaks your fucking paradigm. I mean, every one of these topics, 9/11, 12 years ago, broke my paradigm, right? And then it goes COVID, it broke the paradigm of what I thought about the body. And not that I trusted the medical system in 2019, but you know what I'm saying? Like all these things are game changers.
100% what you're saying, though. Like, it's not that you trusted or didn't trust. You didn't have to think about it, right? If you broke a bone, you went to the hospital, that sort of shit, right? And then you think about stuff like, I mean, there was, we knew about SARS, we knew about AIDS, we knew about that sort of stuff. There was rumors. We knew about the Tuskegee experiment. We knew that the government was up to something, just like everybody knew R. Kelly was up to something, type of thing. But like nobody, you just don't think about it because it's in the ethos of inside of whatever shit that you're already on autopilot for.
Yeah.
But with regards to flat Earth, and globe Earth and that sort of stuff, like I remember being like, I remember being aggressive in the beginning.
Can I ask you though, real quick, let me butt in. Do you ever like step back now and watch some of the conversation, not even just some of it, most of it, and it looks like really immature to you, the back and forth, like from both sides? 100%. It's like, I don't really even want to be part of that conversation because there's so much more than that. And I'm not going to, the fucking Mandela effect guy who's already moved on past that. I keep talking about, that because I'm trying to wake more people up to this reality, but it's been like 4 years now trying to wake flat earthers up to the Mandela effect. And I've woken tons of people in the community up, but the way that these content creators are, like you brought up the ego's probably the biggest factor I'm running up against. And a lot of them think it threatens their paradigm. A lot of people, and I'm not shitting on anybody for making anything, like I'm making money on Rockfin now and all that. Everybody knows that. But a lot of people will not get off what they've got into with their comfort zone because they started getting income from it or whatever. I know that plays into it too. And then there's definitely some people that are definitely put up to stand in the way, and no matter what, keep you in that physical paradigm. Go ahead.
I've reached out to Rockfin a few times, and they always have this thing where I have to like give them my phone number for them to call me and interview me.
Mm-hmm.
And every single time I never get a phone call from them. I'm like, what the fuck? Maybe it's a Canadian thing. I don't know. But I can't seem to get on Rockfin. And that might be, I may have blocked their number on my phone and not even realized it. Yeah. So every time I've tried it, I'm not getting through to them. But I still want to be on Rockfin. Are you making a decent coin on that, or how's that working out?
Yeah. We'll talk about it after the show, and I'll get in touch with them for you and do what I can for you to get you on there. You should be able to get on there.
I would like to be on there, just simply because there's no point in not monetizing certain things, right? Bottom line. Speaking of monetizing certain things, are you selling those shirts? I want one of those shirts is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, they're on my Streamlabs link through the Streamlabs store. I have them.
Nice. I'll put that up on the show notes as well for everybody. Those are fun little shirts. So
yeah, I like these shirts. Yeah.
What you were talking about with regards to waking flat earthers up, I feel like we've been talking too much about flat earth, but it's not about this whole, even the entire time that we've been talking about it, it's not about flat earth.
It's not that it's about flat earth. It's that so many people have gotten to it, just like so many people in the truth movement, awakening or whatever years ago got to 9/11. Like that's a big consensus that everybody got to. 9/11's an inside job, right?
Yeah.
Now, basically anybody that's a truther of any sort, at least, they know by now that the globe's a lie and NASA's completely fake. I think, because even though we take it to a deeper level, I think we all agree on that. So the thing is, it's not like I'm not like trying to target a certain group of people because they're flat earthers. Like I'm trying to target the largest amount of people I can, and that's what the truth movement is now. But most people, I mean, how many have you seen that think it's like some finish line of truth? It's such a joke, man. And then they want to come at me because I can't explain every individual aspect of the Mandela effect. Like I can't tell you exactly like how people's names can change or how this can happen or why there seems to be a lot of original unchanged residue for certain things like Volkswagen. Like we don't have all the answers, but flat earthers after 8 years can't even tell me what the sun is, what the moon is, how far the stars are. There's very little you guys can tell me. So it's quite ironic that the people would come at the Mandela effect like that. It's very weird to me. But go ahead. I'm sorry. Get me going.
So you're animated. Well, okay. So on that, in that same vein and in that same sort of a dialect there, I know people who are, like you said, we've generally consumed or assumed that the 9/11 was fake. I know people that are in the 9/11 community that never left it. Like the 9/11 community is still going on, and what I mean by still going on is like people are still having debates. So there are, and this is what blows me away. Like 20 years later, there are still, they must be bots or something like that are going out of their way to go inside the message boards and the Instagrams and all that sort of stuff to be like, to denounce anyone that's trying to debunk 9/11.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, if you really truly think about your life, who fucking cares if it was fake or not? Like, what part of your life has you dedicating defense of a government story, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I understand, like, if you say, like, you brought some stuff up too, like, why after 20 years, why is there no memorial? Why is there no day of reckoning when, like, thousands of people, who lost, the extended families of thousands of people, they don't get together. There's no.
Why isn't my Facebook flooded with families of the 3,000 families of victims that would be spread out all over our social media? You don't see none of it, dude.
And that also applies to COVID. You right now, with regards to COVID, you've got people saying a lot of people died, but there isn't a single person. Like, if, like, people forget that there was literally a running death toll ticker on some channels of all the people that died from COVID, right?
Yep.
Which would mean that there would be hundreds of thousands, like basically the amount of people that they said died from COVID.
They were literally live streaming Johns Hopkins University, which is crazy to me, but Johns Hopkins University tickers of hundreds of thousands of deaths. It was like, wow.
And if that amount of people died from COVID, then every single one of us would have been affected by somebody who died from COVID. Every last one of us would.
Of course. If
it were real, here's another thing too. If it were real, why would we want to prove it not real? Why would we be sitting here going, people are assholes? Like, we would be mourning with all of you.
Adam, if it were real, I mean, we would have heard ambulances wailing their sirens all day for a year and a half, 2 years, and we never heard anything. And, it wasn't just Mac that went and checked either. I went to hospitals and doctors' offices in March of 2020 and checked as well. Yeah. And there was absolutely nothing going on. As no bodies piling up in the street, none of this. And speaking of social media, because everybody should be able to relate to this, even you people that never left the house, you all have these tools, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, whatever. You all have probably thousands of friends you went to school with. I know I do. And not a single one, and I'm 44 years old, not a single person my age all of a sudden got sick and died because of COVID. Not a single one. I mean, and that goes for it goes for just all across the board.
But everybody's got a story, and that's where the mind comes in.
And even if somebody is told that somebody died of COVID, it's like, then you really get into the meat and potatoes of it. And it's like, well, whatever happened to the flu? Because the COVID numbers went up, the flu numbers dropped off the map, and they have the same exact symptoms. So you tell me what's not adding up here, pal. I mean, give me a break.
And that, we've had that conversation because I'll step into the next one too. When people talk about that and they say, when I say that, COVID was fake, they're like, people died of COVID. I'm like, I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that. I believe that some people truly had a variation of the flu and they died from it. But the death numbers did not change at all between 2018 and 2022. The global overall people still died and still were born, right? There was no fluctuation in death numbers.
None. And also they were jacking up that death toll prior to even having a testing procedure allegedly to be able to test for COVID-19.
And everybody's still aware that, the government or the news medias are all busted and lying, and that the hospitals were paid to boost COVID numbers. That's out there. That's not a conspiracy anymore. That's a thing. Now, here's where it gets interesting, and this is where a lot of people start yelling at me. I believe that 99.9% of the COVID death numbers are fake.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I also believe that 99.9% of the vaccine numbers are bullshit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think firmly that, first.
Can you clarify that by vaccine numbers? Do you mean that the percentage of people they say are vaccinated, or do the percentage of people that are supposedly injured from it? What part of the vaccine are we talking about? All of that. Mm-hmm. So I think that the number of people that they say are vaccinated, I think is fake. I think a lot of people got vaccinated. I think that the amount of deaths and serious injury from vaccine, I also think that's fake. I think that
that the same people that fed us the COVID numbers are feeding
fake or overblown.
overblown.
As far as the injuries.
Overblown. I'm putting it on the exact same level as COVID.
Yeah. So what about things like all these athletes dropping on the field? Because a lot of people think that's fake. Do you think that that's totally fake? Because then they don't seem to be big name American ones that anybody over here can name.
I'm gonna say, and this is where the community hates me, I'm gonna say that it's probably bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And are we getting real quiet when we say that? I mean, but no, we're not. I mean, like, I think that people are dying, right? And I don't know what it is, but I think that there are people out there that are doing certain things, right? And what I mean by that is like, there's a nefarious undertone taking place in a lot of things. Now, with regards to those athletes, there's a lot of athletes right now being pushed harder than they've ever been pushed in their entire lives. There's also a lot of designer drugs out there right now. So if these athletes are dying, which they probably are, I mean, there seems to be more validity to the dying athletes than to the thousands and thousands of bodies. Right. But I'm not going to, where I draw my differentiation is I'm not going to say vaccines did that. Right. Because I think that the same people that made you afraid of COVID and
I feel you
are pushing the same narrative with regards to the vaccines.
Exactly. And so there's so many underlying issues that people already had that would make them sick and could die. And then they were labeling it COVID. So it comes in as like this net to overcome it. Now, if people are getting sick from all the other things, they have the world twisted in a way where they think that, 80% of the world is vaccinated or whatever. In reality, if you go by your experience, you probably would say maybe 1 out of every 2 people is vaccinated. Or I don't know what your experience is. That's mine. Maybe half the people I know are vaccinated and half of them aren't. But they have the world thinking that everybody's vaccinated, including all the truthers, right? So when this stuff starts to happen, people automatically default to, it must have been the vaccine, right? Just like people defaulted when people were dying that it must be COVID. Is that kind of like what you're thinking?
Well, even to bring it back to Mac, when Mac passed away, 100% of everyone said they took him out.
Yeah.
Right. And everyone that was,
I wouldn't say 100, not 100% of people, but
99. So the same numbers, I'll say 99.9% of people said they took him out. Right. In our community or in the free thought community. But in the same vein, anyone that knew Mac as how the media portrayed him. Mm-hmm. So anyone that was leaning towards the media, because they made him look like a fucking Looney Tunes guy. And he absolutely was not. He was one of the smartest people I knew. Mm-hmm. Anyone that watched the news and anyone that was he was enemy number one. He was on his way to trial. He was doing this and anything for abandoning the quarantine and that sort of stuff. So every single person in that vein, so again, 99.9%, or we'll just make it an arbitrary 99%. All of them said he died of COVID. Right.
Yeah.
So when we look at him and he's literally you and me. I mean, there was a time where you were sitting there having a drink with him. Right. So this guy,
a year ago, he stayed right here in this room. I mean, he crashed here for the weekend.
Exactly. So there's no 6 degrees of separation with Mac. Mac touched all of us. Right. And even the people that didn't know him, the people that saw him as public enemy number one, everyone's got a story. Everyone's got their ideology. We believe that he, when it first started, I'm not saying now, I'm saying when it first started, the majority of the truthers would have been like, they took him out. And then the majority of the people, the non-truthers would have been like, COVID got him. Right.
Yeah.
And then again, that was the thing. That was the immediate response. And a lot of people don't get past the immediate response. A lot of people are like, this is what happened. This is what I saw. This is the way it went out. And there are people right now, I don't know why they would be, but there are people.
There's still even people that are a huge part of the truth movement, a large portion of the truth movement that are saying, Mac faked it because then they could run with that he had COVID and he could make all the truthers look bad. And it's ridiculous. The fucking media never even ran with that he had COVID. That was never even and you would think that they would, because he was the guy. They never even went there after he died. It was stayed that he had a heart attack. It wasn't said to be COVID related, vaccine related, yet everybody else is going in all these other fucking directions.
Yeah. And honestly, if you think about it, and here's another thing too, that sort of gets that I have the ability to polarize both the truthers and the normies, is respectfully, the media dropped it altogether. When Mac died of a heart attack, the media dropped the whole thing. He was never brought up again. Mm-hmm. And that's respectful. It's not one of those things where crazy COVID lunatic dies of COVID, right? I mean, there were some ridiculous.
There was a few articles, but they were really like low level websites. They weren't anything like
exactly. And then they were pulled down. They were gone.
Yeah.
But he was under attack by the CTV, CBC.
Oh, dude. He was definitely under attack by big media up until that point. Absolutely,
they weren't. Dude. So I say that just because, I mean, I guess the overall thing for me in my position, not on Mac, but on all of it, is that you can look at it in any sort of way, shape, or form to see the benefits and the positives or the negatives. And I think that when we can really truly sort of remove ourselves from the situation, like you said earlier, don't you get sick of even just watching these people have these conversations? I mean, with regards to the actual topic of flat Earth, I won't talk about it. I'll be like, yeah, this, and this, but what about this, and this? And then if they'll say certain things, and I'll be like, you know what, that's cool. That's the journey that you're on. Myself, I'm far beyond. Here's the thing: I'm far beyond everything that has nothing to do with me. And that seems almost ignorant or arrogant.
No. That's perfect, dude. That's what I've come to since COVID started.
Yeah.
And you have to start to put yourself first and do what's better for your life and make the changes in your own life. It's like people, what's it matter? How's the Mandela effect going to change your life? How's flat Earth going to change your life? Well, 9/11, you got to make your own changes in your own life,
Yeah. And see, the thing with the Mandela effect is that's fascinating to me, because I had what's his name, your number one denouncer guy on the show just a while ago, a long time ago. I haven't heard from him since. The Joey guy.
My God.
Yeah, I told you about that when I was going to put him on.
I forgot all about that, dude.
And
I didn't forget about him. I forgot that you did a thing with him. Holy crap. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, and the interesting thing was it got the show got really good response. And it was interesting because, I'm not here to like have an opinion one way or the other. But I like the Mandela effect because, like I said, it's one of those things that does affect me but also doesn't affect me. Like 9/11 is a physical thing in this realm and in this reality. Right. And COVID is a thing that is a weapon for division. The Mandela effect is something that's just simply happening. Like nobody under the sun gives a shit if Volkswagen changed their logo. Right? Nobody under the sun gives a shit if the Berenstain and Berenstein Bears is a thing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect anybody. It doesn't do anything on the surface. I gotta get a new battery in this thing. I'm probably gonna lose my camera before we.
Welcome to intermission. Intermission.
Sorry for what appeared to be a bit of a jump in the show, ladies and gentlemen. I lost my train of thought. I lost my camera battery. Brian lost his coffee. It was just a bloody mess all right in the middle of all that. But we're back now. And what I was talking about, I believe, was the Mandela effect doesn't affect me and how I'm okay with that. And what I mean by that, we're talking about flat Earth, man, where you live affects you. And I mean, you actually, you know what? You think it does, but it really doesn't, because it doesn't matter where we live. It doesn't matter. It does not matter where we live, but that we're living and having these experiences. So with regards to the Mandela effect, I can understand people being like, cognitive dissonance dictates that you can't tell me I don't live on a globe because I've been indoctrinated to believe I live on a globe. Man, one of the things I always asked as a kid, and this is just totally off the cuff, but one of the things I always asked as a kid was Star Trek. You know, Star Trek. Remember Star Trek and Star Trek: The Next Generation?
Yeah.
I still love The Next Generation. I mean, I'll watch that show still, and because I can't really watch TV because I understand it too much and I see all the shit, and I just watch the propaganda is absolutely next level. The new Doctor Strange in the Multiverse movie, right?
Yeah.
So, and not to give anything away, but I'm going to give some stuff away. Doctor Strange jumps over to another universe, and in that universe, he's dead. But in that universe, he was killed by a group of people. The very same group of people that he organized. He pulled everybody together and they created this thing. So they're not called the Avengers. They're not called the Defenders of Earth. Bro, they're called the Illuminati. And I laugh at this because so Doctor Strange created the Illuminati in this peculiar multiverse. And he has to protect a character, and the character's name is America.
Mm-hmm.
So the Illuminati is protecting America from witches in the darkness.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm laughing at that. I'm like, you guys aren't even trying to hide this shit anymore. You're just putting it all out there, and you're going to, paint yourself with propaganda and all that sort of shit. But yeah, so one of the things that I thought of in Star Trek, like back in the day, right? So, and I didn't even realize, I didn't even tie this into Earth realm, Earth reality, whatever. But every single ship in Star Trek, well, two things that sort of caught my attention. We've all seen those displays, this is the size of the Earth, and this is the size of the moon, and this is the size of our sun, and this is the size of the red giant this, and this is the size of the blue giant. You know that graph that the planets are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Have you ever seen that thing? Anyway.
Yes.
People, I'm looking at that going, well, if the planets are bigger, then the people are bigger. In other words, the people or the entities that live on that planet will be size equivalent to those planets. Right. Mm-hmm. Which would mean that if this planet was the size of whatever, and they decided that they were going to go into space travel, then the ship that they're traveling in would pass by Earth and we would be space dust. The planet Earth would be the equivalent of a grain of dust because of the infinite greatness that exists out there. Right. Mm-hmm. And this is the kind of thing that made me laugh because they're like, no, it's just a bigger planet with all the people that are the same height. They're all 6 foot living on this massive giant planet. I'm like, okay, that doesn't make any sense. Secondly, the implication of up and down in space made me laugh. Right. So all of the ships always at all times throughout all of the Star Treks or anything that's ever been shown in space, in space, all of the ships meet like this. They come nose to nose. Yeah. The implication is that there's an up and down in the universe. Right. Why wouldn't a ship just be like, how you doing? Or what? Yeah. There's no rhyme or reason that these guys would always be nose to nose. There is no up or down in space. Anyone can come from anywhere, right? It's the absurdity of all of it. And I'm sitting there going, how come this doesn't make any sense? And people are like, well, first of all, what the fuck are you talking about? And second of all, you're just overthinking it. I'm like, man, I'm not overthinking it. No. This is weird. Shit's weird.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was a little bit of tangent there. This is a fun episode. It's a long time since I've had the opportunity to shoot the shit about.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we gotta do it. We gotta do it more regularly, man.
I agree.
You owe me next time. I'm gonna have you on. Maybe we'll do another roundtable. Those are fun. I like having you on with other people with an open mind too. That's cool. So I have some ideas. We could probably do a couple cool roundtables.
You could put me on with some people with closed minds too. I'll make fun of them and try to help them open their minds.
I don't want those fuckers on my show.
Okay. So there's the thing for me. Like, again, what we talked about earlier, like I see past certain things. And this is where, when I say the Mandela effect is one of those things where it's like, why would you get aggressive about the Mandela effect? The Mandela effect is cool. And it lines up with this universe that we're in, right? Because it's basically energy based. I mean, scientifically, if you break down the molecules inside the atom is a quarks, and quasons. They've already talked about quantum entanglement, quantum mechanics. Quantum entanglement being if you move your hand now, a rock on Mars moves as well, right? So there's implications with quantum entanglement that space is real and all that sort of stuff. But quantum entanglement is something that they promote and that they push. And if quantum entanglement is real, if quantum physics are real, which they appear to be, science is talking about them, then reality as we know it can't exist. So the same people that are telling you that everything's a physical form are also
Mhm.
telling you that quantum mechanics and quantum entanglement is also a thing.
Yeah. It's a complete paradox that they're presenting.
Yeah. And people are like, well, now I'm going to make an opinion of it. And not only that, but I'm going to get aggressive towards my opinion. One thing I've noticed when you talk about sort of aggressive people in a much grander scale is the egoic self and waking up from the egoic self and then waking into the spiritual ego. So it's like you crash out of the egoic self and you crash into the spiritual ego. And the spiritual ego is I'm having a spiritual awakening, and that separates me from you.
Yeah.
Right. And that to me makes me laugh.
That's a big point. And that's something I try and stress to people when I present that the Mandela effect. And I always try and present it to people that like, we're all going through this. And it isn't about me being right and you being wrong. It's literally about all the humans are experiencing what's happening right now. You're no different. And in fact, I'm giving you praise because I'm telling you that your senses are not failing you. You know, we have the same memory, you know?
Yeah. I saw this one clip with regards to the Mandela effect. I saw this one clip where, and I was going to bring it to your attention, but at the same time, like, he's probably already seen it, first of all. And second of all, there's got to be some trickery or bullshit to it. Have you seen this clip? It's a guy with a copy of the Berenstain Bears. And
I actually, go ahead. You tell me about it and then I'll tell you. So I've seen the clip and it's the guy and he's walking into the bedroom, right? And the Berenstain changes to Berenstain changes back to Berenstain as he goes in and out.
That's the clip I'm talking about. Yeah. So I'm assuming you saw that, obviously. So yeah, I was right on that. What's your take on that?
Not only did I see it, we recreated it with video editing software to show how easily it could be done. And Karen helped me do it. And we redid that clip in about a couple hours of time. It could have been done a little better. It was a little shaky, but we really rushed it out. Anybody can fake that with video editing software and upload that, or even play it in a stream, because people said he streamed that live. Well, people can play pre-recorded edited video and play it in a live stream and it'll come off as live to everybody. So I just think that's video trickery in my opinion, because we, again, in the matter of, I mean, I told her like the night before or a couple days before I wanted to recreate this video and do it on the show. I'll show you the video after we literally.
I want to see it. Yeah, for sure.
It's me, literally me holding a Berenstain book.
Were you making noises? Oh no! Look what's happening to the book! Oh boy!
Yeah. I played the whole role. I played the whole role, dude. But at the end, I made sure in the same video, without any cutscenes or anything, to tell everybody that it's fake. Like, this is fake. I'm faking this, and this is how easily it's done. Granted, the other guy did a cleaner job at it, but if Karen would have had a couple days to play with it, like, we could have made it look exactly the same. So
it's also the same too as passing it through a grainy filter. Like when he first did it, like the first 4 or 5 times he's doing it, you can't even read the book, right? So he's got it through a grain filter, right? And then the last one, you're looking at it going, okay, yeah, that's cool, but you know, it's just frame by frame. You just alter out frame. And I looked at this, I'm like, that's the thing that I saw that, and so I wasn't bringing that up to you, being like, hey, is this real? I wanted to know what your take on it was, and so we got that, and I like that.
My take on it is there to muddy the waters, make us look bad, and get people to run with shit. It's that makes this topic look stupid. Yeah. And that there's also another one going around where a guy supposedly has an old cell phone, and if he takes a picture with his old cell phone, it shows the Mandela effect thing the way that it used to be, like as he's like doing like a. You know, he's like doing like a video and he's scanning what this camera would see with his phone. And as he goes over a Curious George doll, all of a sudden the tail will appear on it or something. I don't buy any of that stuff. But, you know, I mean, well, what we're seeing is crazy, but I just don't think that any of these technologies like this guy's cell phone is tapping into the Mandela effect. I think it's kind of, you know, it's a little above that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and if it is, that'd be super cool. But I'm assuming if that were real, like imagine just for the sake of argument that that's a real clip. The guy's got that bedroom that does that shit.
Yeah.
How quickly do you think the CIA would be at that dude's house?
Yeah. He also has a fake video on his channel where he has this portal that supposedly comes out of the bed and he's like looking into like a different city on the other side of the world or some shit. Like it's good editing. It's good video editing for sure, but that's all it is.
I've seen that video. Trickery. That's the same guy.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So coincidentally, he's got his bedroom portal and he's got the Mandela effect. All right, cool.
Exactly. Yeah.
But okay, so here's the thing. Now, upon further inspection, is this guy doing it just for fun? or is he actually trying to play it off as real?
I don't know. I never pursued a conversation with him or anything.
So I'm not going to shit him. Like if he's just having a laugh, then good for you. Thank you for that, because that's the kind of thing too that also like brings attention to the Mandela effect.
Yeah, and there's also people that they think it's just about the Berenstein Bears. They don't realize there's land mass changes and Bible changes, anatomy, and all this. They just think it's this fun little game. And so somebody like that would perceive it in this way, he might have had no ill intent making a video like that. Now if that's somebody in a truth community and he makes a video like that, obviously I'd have a 180 opinion on that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm not. When I saw it as somebody had spliced it or somebody had whatever they stitched it. So I didn't actually see the original. I just saw a stitch of somebody paying attention to it, and I just thought that was kind of a campy little thing that somebody had done. But I mean, but you're right when they talk about changing sort of land masses and that sort of thing. And are you familiar with the plot of Westworld?
Not really. No, I've never seen it. I mean, I've heard of the show, but I've never watched it.
So if you're looking for something to kill time with, I know you're not much of a TV guy, but if you're looking for something to kill time with, it's interesting to watch Westworld. It's interesting to sort of see what they're doing because it has a lot to do with humanity. And the idea being, obviously, there are what are referred to as hosts, which look like people, and you go into the Westworld and you can do whatever you want to these hosts. And you're just a human inside this Westworld thing. The story goes that these people are shot up, beat up, raped, punched, kicked, cut in half, all the dirty sins of what humanity wants to do. They can go and do to these robots for whatever reason. And they come out, they get repaired, and then they go back into the thing. Sometimes they have a story where they're, these guys they're prostitutes. Sometimes they're a farm lady that's got kids. Sometimes they're background characters, whatever it is, right? They go into detail about this. But one of the things that I took from that was it's impressive to see somebody talking about sort of like a different perspective. Season 1, when you watch it blind, you're watching it from the perspective of the people, like the humans, quote unquote, that go into this area.
Okay.
Season 2, it starts off with the fact that you very well might be the host. And the idea being that the hosts are waking up from their programming through extreme pain and constant suffering and constant crap. And when you look at the world today in 2022, everybody is it's just so much fear porn. It's so much fear porn that people are waking up. People are seeing certain things.
Yeah.
And that to me is like, okay, so they're talking about this and they're sort of doing this sort of thing. So even with regards to all the absolute chaos that's going on, I've had these thoughts where I'm like, is it bad? And then what's the definition of good versus evil? So I'm even on the cusp of all of the entirety of everything. You put it all in one pot. I'm like, I'm not sure it's bad, because I know that, again, when we talk about,
there has to be some sort of balance too. So some of the evil is needed. I mean,
yeah. Without the evil, there's no gauge for good, right? Yeah. And so anyway, so back to the Westworld. When we think about the fact that we could be the bots, you and me could be the bots, and that's kind of cool. We could be the AI. And I had this conversation with my last guest, Nick Hinton, was on last episode, and we were talking about artificial intelligence and how the world is pointing at the Illuminati and this and anything. And even in Westworld. Westworld and Truman Show were both filmed under a dome. It's like, obviously, the ethos of the show. They're both filmed under a dome, right? We've been talking about, flat Earth is like we live under a dome, right? Operation Fishbowl, all that sort of stuff. In Westworld, they terraform the Earth, so they'll sort of block off a spot and they'll terraform and change it. North America and how it's shifted, New Zealand and the land down under is no longer down under. These things are like shifted. Right. Mm-hmm. There's also talk about how people that go out into the wilderness go missing, right? Because there's not enough programming to sort of to handle them trying to create the sim for one person way out there, so they just glitch out and they go missing when they're in complete openness and wilderness. So all of these things are at one point, like 5-10 years ago, well, maybe more like 10-15 years ago now, we talk about that stuff, and it's like, none of this makes any fucking sense to me. Like, that's like, you're just talking bags. It's just all gibberish. But now you see things tying together. And this is where the Mandela effect comes in too. If they're terraforming and if they're changing things right? And if one day but you and I are bots. So like one day you remember a certain thing from an existence when you had kids or when you had this or when you had that, and Pepsi looked a certain way, or sorry, Coca-Cola looked a certain way. And now Coca-Cola looks totally different because they changed it when you swapped out. They terraformed, they moved some stuff over here, they changed you up over here. And it's not like you've lived an entire lifetime. It's that, whatever happened to you ended your existence, and then you got blinked back in. Now you've got a family, now you're over here, now you're running with this thing. So every single morning that we wake up, we blink back into this reality. Prior to waking up this morning, we don't technically know anything.
No.
So that's the thing. And it's not even waking up this morning. Like prior to, like, I mean, you and I could have literally just been blinked into existence right now with the memory that we started a podcast an hour ago. Right. And now we're still talking about it. So that's how far gone reality could really truly be. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. Like when people say things, so how do I put this? There was a point in time where the argument was, is the earth flat? Is the earth a globe? Now the argument is, why are we having an argument? And what am I experiencing? And what is this truth reality? Not what is the Mandela effect, not what is the earth, not what is this, what is that, not what is my suffering, not what is my addiction, not what is what I think I'm doing. It's all of it. It's all of it. Why am I having this argument? Why am I having this conversation? Why did I start this podcast 205 episodes ago? All of these questions. Why did I do any of this? Because, well, you have to, right? Basically, you have to. But it's not about winning the argument. It's about having the argument and experiencing the argument. I think I've gone on a massive tangent right now, but I don't know. Did you have any thoughts on that shit?
No, you're good, man. That's what I'm all about now. It's like, what is the big picture? Well, I want to know what this reality is and why we are here and what's next. It's not about, I know people hear me talk about the Mandela effect all the time. It's like, and I always tell people that's, the most phenomenal thing I've seen so far, but there's always going to be more, there, and the journey just keeps continuing and continuing. But I want to know what this place is and how it actually works. And I'm not going to ignore all my experiences, all my memories, and then all the physical freaking evidence that backs up the experiences that we had, along with the correlation of, it's like what I talk about with these Mandela effects, right? It's if you took 100 people and stuck them in a room, right? And you asked them what company Ed McMahon worked for, sweepstakes company. I mean, you already know they're going to say Publishers Clearinghouse, even though it's always been American Family Publishing. Now, here's the thing. Like, if you put 100 people in that room and 20 of them, say 20 of the 100 told you Ed McMahon's always worked for Publishers Clearinghouse, and they gave you details and he delivered giant checks to their door and balloons. Now, that's never happened in this reality. 20 out of 100 people told you this unanimous story, in unison, this story with each other of something that's never existed. That should be investigated. But that's not even what we have. If you put 100 people in the room and ask them that question, you're going to have like 99 out of those 100 people that are going to tell you the reality that's never existed. And it's not just the top Mandela effects. Like, you could go down the line, and I dare say, like, all the ones I present, the percentile is going to be at least 75% or higher that remember the way things used to be. Like, if you take 100 people and put them in a room, right? Ask them what the witch said to the mirror in Snow White. How many people you think are actually going to say what the current reality and say magic mirror out of 100? I would say you'd be lucky if there's one. They're all going to say mirror, mirror, and that's never existed. And we have all this physical evidence lying around in this reality. Why is that? Why are things changing? Why is this reality seem to like literally be fluid? That's what I want to know. I'm not going to deny all this. It's insane. I mean, Mr. Rogers, again, and these are just the surface level ones, but it's easy to bring up. We'll bring up the geography ones. You ask people where South America is in relation to North America, they're going to tell you it's underneath it. If you ask people what direction the Panama Canal runs, they're going to tell you east to west. If you ask people where Cuba, and these are land masses of the earth, this isn't, media stuff anymore. Well, these people would all be wrong because now South America is barely underneath North America at all. It's so far over to the right. And the canal's like, I know we're not on camera, but the canal's up and down now instead of left and right. It's wild, man. Yeah. I'm not a Bible guy, right? But there's changes in scripture that seem to have a strong message.
You can ask the Bible people the same thing. We were just talking about that.
And it's like, it's whatever's happening is very profound and very important, you know, and I can't pretend to know that I've like decoded all this or anything. But I don't know how people can ignore it and act like it's not happening and act like we're stupid. And when they have the same fucking memories as us, dude. That's why I do things the way I do and go out and show that these people are all experiencing it. You know?
Yeah. And a lot of that would be, I would have to assume that a lot of that would be NPCs, right? You have the non-player characters. But I also believe too that we're all not, we all start the game as NPCs. Like we grow into who we're supposed to be. You know, I remember being, you know, the drunk asshole all over the place, just doing whatever I thought I was supposed to do. And I remember being completely miserable doing it. And I remember sort of understanding certain things and seeing things and waking up to certain things. You know, so I believe that we grow out of NPCs, but I believe that, you know, the people that are denouncing it, like you tell somebody that Coca-Cola never had the dash in the middle of Coca-Cola. It was always at the top, right? People are going to go, that's bullshit. And then 10 seconds later, you're going to watch them take the download and go, oh yeah, no, that's how it was. I'm just misremembering it.
Denying their own reality and acting like we're the fools. It's unbelievable, dude. Like they're
that's cognitive dissonance, though. They're supposed to.
But it's great. That's just why I get frustrated, because I thought it was a large group of people in like a truth community that would be totally past that type of cognitive dissonance. I was completely wrong. It's just as thick as it is with the normies as far as when it comes to this topic. This is the bridge too far for people to cross, even though they're all experiencing it. Well, how about there's a whole crowd of people out there, right? They'll tell you this. They won't. There's a crowd of people. They won't come and bash on the Mandela effect or whatever. They're kind of quiet about it, but they'll say that, oh, but I know that Dolly had braces. Okay, well, why don't you want to take that conversation farther? You know that Dolly had braces in Moonraker, but nobody in the world can show me a copy where she's had braces, even if you have one in your house. You need to look into this further, people. It's not just about Dolly, you know, and it's not just about Star Wars. It's about everything. Whatever this reality is, let's throw some ideas out there. Is it a simulation? Is it God's creation? Is it hell? Is it parallel universes? Like, I mean, there's all these ideas that people have. Are we inside God's mind? Like, whatever it is, it's fucking glitching out right now, or the creator is changing things at a rapid pace, trying to get our attention. I just don't know how people can deny it and not take any interest in it. You asked me earlier, I think it was actually before we started recording the podcast, are there any new Mandela effects or whatever? And I want to address that. And I am gonna present one that you probably haven't heard.
Excellent.
But
my favorite part of the show, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, it's interesting because when people usually ask me that, I don't usually have an answer, because
every time you've come on the show, you've just discovered a new one. I think the last one was I want to say the bag of chips or something like that.
Okay, so we're gonna give you something better than that. So when people ask me that, a lot of times I freeze up, because I'm like, I'm not here hunting down Mandela effects and trying to put a video out about it. And there are people that do that. And I think if you do that, you can end up reaching for things. And I talk about things that are strong and profound to me. So you've heard me talk about Black Tom, I'm sure, right? I've probably talked about it on your show.
Yeah.
So and this other thing I'm going to talk about ties into that. So real quick, I'll give people a summary. Now in this reality, 1916, okay, 2 German spies snuck in through New Jersey and attacked a munitions depot with 1 million pounds of TNT. It blew up, killed 120, injured 120, killed 5 people, and it damaged the Statue of Liberty so bad that nobody's ever been to the Torch. And I've spoken to people that have been to the Torch, and the idea we would never hear of this attack. We were all taught that Pearl Harbor was the first major foreign attack. Well, no, now it's these 2 German spies. And then on top of that, there was another German attack I've spoke of a lot, Torpedo Alley. So I've done expensive research into these topics. And, Torpedo Alley is 5,000 Americans dead off the coast of North Carolina by 8 German U-boats, sunk 500 merchant marine ships. And this is interesting because there never were any German attacks on U.S. soil from wherever I came from, or whatever this reality was. This instance of reality is different than where it was for me. There were no German attacks on U.S. soil. Now there's another one. And I did a video several months ago, but you probably haven't heard about this one. And it's called the Kingsland Explosions. And it's German spies again in New Jersey again, and only 2 years after Black Tom. And it wasn't there all these last several years that I've been looking at these things. It was not there. Now there's another attack by German spies. They snuck into New Jersey again. I think it's Patterson, New Jersey. And they blew up like 40 different buildings. And there was 500 500,000 rounds of artillery supposedly flying through the air. And there's pictures and videos of all the damage and stuff. It's completely ridiculous. And so the theme keeps going with these German attacks. And there's these tons of German Mandela effects. And German names are changing because of the Mandela effect. I mean, you even brought up Volkswagen earlier. It's another German name change. And along with Haas Avocados, another German name change, Charles M. Schultz, FAO Schwartz, Werner von Braun. The Nazi swastika is crooked. Hitler has blue eyes. Like all of this stuff just keeps going on and on. And then so I do feel the Mandela effect is very personal. In my opinion, we can get to, I definitely want to get your theories after, but my opinion is that it's coming from the creator, at least for the most part. And some of it, I know some of it seems like an attack or whatever, but I look at most of it as pretty neutral. But I do think things are there to grab my attention specifically. And then now there's this other instance where you see there's a town in Massachusetts called Orleans, Massachusetts. It's only got like 3,000 people there. And there's a little beach called Nauset Beach, beautiful beach there. So the people that actually live on the beach is like, much lower than the 3,000 that live in the town that has the beach, right? Now there's another German thing where a German torpedo was launched and it landed on the beach there. And you know who lives on that beach? My mother lives on that beach, and her back window overlooks the sand right where, like, allegedly now, years and years ago, there was a German torpedo that got launched and hit that beach. It's insane. Insane.
So now the Mandela effects are making it personal.
And they already were, because I had changes in my neighborhood and all the stuff in Lowell. Like, my neighborhood changed. A guy, Ed McMahon's from there. The river that's there changed. It's already been personal with me since about 2019. It started getting personal. And it's interesting because I started making videos in 2018. And my co-host Gloria said, wait till you have some personal stuff happen, because then it's going to be really profound.
Yeah.
And then when that happened, it was like, wow, man, this is really special. And I feel that there's more tied into it. Like, Mandela effect's a crappy word. I mean, but that's what we're stuck with, right? It's like the way in which this reality operates, but it's also at the same time, I have seen some other little changes and other changes all within like the last year. It does seem it's speeding up again. I just can't think of them all right now off the top of my head. But on top of that, I get these synchronicities when I'm out doing things that like reassure me that I'm like on the right path. And I think that's part of this whole thing too. I don't want to say Mandela effect, but it's all tied into it. Whatever's sending these signals through our reality, whatever's causing these changes. And I do believe that it's one reality. For anybody that's wondering what I believe, one reality. We're not jumping timelines. We're not coming from an old Earth to a new Earth. Nobody's traveling back in time. And I could be completely wrong about all this. I just want to tell people that. It's my theories. I don't believe it's CERN. I don't believe it's D-Wave. I don't believe we live in a simulation. I believe that it's one reality and it's in flux. Now, by what methods is it in flux? Is it just us perceiving signals, most of us that are on the same type of level, perceiving those frequencies at about the same time? Yeah, I think that's probably more or less what it is than anything else. But I really can't be sure. So I know I said a lot there. I went off on a tangent. What do you think about that? And what are your theories on the Mandela effect?
So my main question on that one is, I mean, I'm not going to question you. You're the guy that does all the research on it. I would state a few things. One question and a few statements is, what did they call the Mandela effect before Mandela? There was a name for it. So,
yeah, some people would call it something to do with like people being dead and coming back to life again theory. Cynthia Sue Larson, who been writing on it since 1999, she calls it reality shifts. People that are of Buddhist backgrounds, they call it parallel realities and still do. They don't call it Mandela effect. So there's been a lot of other names for it. And there's a bunch that I'm probably missing. Reality shifts and parallel realities, I would say, would be two of the bigger terms that were definitely around before the term Mandela effect, which, the whole term Mandela effect, Fiona Broome, Nelson Mandela, like the whole thing stinks like shit to me, so, that whole part of it is the whole gatekeeping part that came in to gatekeep what had already been happening in this reality. People think the Mandela effect kicked off in like 2016 or something. Absolutely not true. Not only do a lot of people I know I had an experience that goes back 20 years, but other people have experiences going back longer and longer. They just didn't know what it was. But on top of that, the disinformation online from the big sources, they came out way before 2016. I've shown the Today Show did a hit piece, and like they didn't call it the Mandela effect, but that's what it was. It was a hit piece on the Mandela effect in like 2009. The Forbes magazine did a hit piece on the Ed McMahon Mandela effect in 2012. It was interesting, dude. I showed a book. It's supposedly a fiction book. Now, Dilemma is a big Mandela effect for many, many people. Are you familiar with that one?
Dilemma?
Yeah.
What's that?
So many people remember Dilemma, myself included, with a silent N in it, Dilemna. Now, in this reality, it's always been a double M. There's no silent N. So millions and millions of people around the world are all misspelling this word and all inserting a silent N where it's never belonged. And so many of us remember intentionally mispronouncing the word to know how to spell it. Like this anchor memories for a lot of people. Now it's always been a double M. So there's this book, this 2000 fiction novel. I forget the name of it, but I did a video on it. And in the novel, it's crazy because there's this character and he's running around, he's under gunfire and all this stuff. And then in the middle of it, out of the blue, he just blurts out, he's like, and there's going to be a day when people forget that dilemma is spelled Dilemna, and they're going to spell it with a double M. And it's in this fiction book of 2000, just this weird thing he blurted out. And the Mandela effect actually changed that. Now, if you go back and you look in any old, you know how this works, but if you go back and you look in any old dictionary or anything like that, they're all going to be spelled with the double M. There's never been a silent N in Dilemma. Yet all of us remember this obscure fiction novel that I found while doing research on it. I was like, wow, this is really strange, dude.
You brought up we're all sharing one reality, and I disagree with that.
Cool.
And cool. Click. Oh shit, he's gone. No.
Let's hear
I'm just kidding.
I love hearing everybody's theories, dude. Like, I love having the round tables and stuff. We need to have these conversations.
100%.
They're so good to have.
And that's what I'm saying. Like your information merged with my information, and because, the stuff that you say, and the stuff that we talk about with regards to the Mandela effect, a lot of that shit blows my mind. Dilemma isn't one of those things. I've never in my life experienced the idea of the dilemma being spelt with an N. Mm-hmm. And that's why I say like, I'm not wrong and you're not wrong. Right. Which means that you and I are experiencing this differently, which means that there's different realities being taken place. Now, my take on reality is right now leaning towards sim, and the Mandela effect plays into sim, right? Because again, sim is computer. Bro, I'm at war constantly with the algorithms on social media, and the algorithms on social media are 100% indicative of and reactive to me, right? So I am an algorithm myself. And when you sort of extrapolate more into that, you understand that, you've been programmed. You're being programmed. We're being programmed every day by the things like the things that we think that we want. We see this stuff. We're influenced by these things, and we think that we want this. And again, there's this conversation going on about free will and how humans have free will. And the neat thing about free will is one of those things where it's like, arbitrarily, if there's 100 topics that we could talk about, humanity only talks about 5 of them. And we talk about 5 of them ad nauseum. And if you talk about any of the other 95 of them, you're crazy. So
you mean like politics, religion, entertainment, sports, and news, and that's like pretty much the 5 topics, that type of stuff.
Essentially, like I'm arbitrarily stating 5 out of 100, right? But I want to talk about, like, if I want to talk about interdimensional travel, I'm crazy. If I want to talk about the Blue Jays, hey, let's do it, right? So my free will only extends to what I'm allowed to know. And I've had this conversation 1,000 times over. The fact that you and I are communicating right now in the English language is the first step to deception, because I can only communicate with you things that I can correlate to the words that I'm using. And language in and of itself is the very first line of manipulation, right? So how am I supposed to convey to you that, I don't know anything? How am I supposed to convey to you without using my words? Well, it's simple. Every guy on the earth knows what, hey, check this chick out is. Every guy knows, hey, what's this? Just a couple of emotions, a couple of this, a couple of that. Every guy, knows certain things. Every girl knows when somebody's in trouble. Most people can read certain scenarios and situations off the person's face. Like, are you surprised? Are you shocked? Like micro expressions to me is a phenomenal topic. There was a show back in the day called Lie to Me. I absolutely love that show. Because I still do read micro expressions. It's called reading the room, things like that. Right? You sense energy. You see certain things. Another thing too is, we talk about certain things like Superman, for example, gets his power from the yellow sun of the earth. Superman can fly, right? And it's really cool that Superman can fly. And you and I talk about gas prices, and everybody right now, for example, is arguing over gas prices, right? And then the alternative to the argument for gas prices is, well, thank God there's electric vehicles coming along. Right. And people don't realize that it takes, like, electricity, for example, is like the battery is stored electricity. It's not created electricity. So to create electricity, you still need something that's going to create electricity. So the idea of gas, and these, like, again, this is the stuff that we can argue. We can talk about car batteries. We can talk about Tesla. We can talk about petrol. Right. And we can talk about this shit until we're blue in the face, and everybody's got an opinion on what we can do with all this sort of shit. But not a single person is talking about, well, why don't we just fly? Why don't we just levitate? Why don't we just head over, just fly like Superman does? Because people are like, right out the gate, you can't do that. And I'll tell you this, if you've never tried, you'll never know what you can do. And when it's absurd to try, that's the thing too. Right? But here we are. We're being told all of these stories. We're seeing all of this stuff. It's in every single media everywhere that all of these mutants, all of these non-humans can fly, right? There's this thing. I look at this world as our entire history stolen from us and sold back to us. But I also look at this entire world as a video game. Now, everyone wants to be upset and angry at certain shit, but I mean, you're of the same age as me. Remember Street Fighter 2, how cool that game was back in the day?
Top 3 game all time.
There you go. 100%. I was playing it earlier today. And I love Street Fighter 2. I was never very good at it. I was really good at Mortal Kombat 2. But Street Fighter 2, for any male or even women, but mostly men, for any man that's between the ages of 39 and 46, 47, you played that game either in the arcade or on your Sega Genesis or on your Super Nintendo. You played that game for hours. And now imagine that game. So you pick your character, right? And then you press the start button instead of the other one. So you get red Ryu and all the color change and all that shit. You go into the game and there's no opponent. So now you're just standing there, fight, and there's nothing there. Well, that's a boring ass game. Now you're not going to fight Ken. You're not going to fight Guile. You're not going to fight anything. There's nobody there to fight. Right. So the whole purpose of the game is to fight that guy. Right. The whole purpose of what we're doing is to be able to sort of have these breakthroughs, and the breakthroughs come from fighting. Arbitrarily, I'm just saying with regards to this, they come from fighting. You get better at Street Fighter. You get your ass kicked by Street Fighter until you get better at it and better at it, better at it. And the only way to get better at it is to play it. So all of this shit that's going on in this world, in this reality, is happening. And this is my take on sort of where we are and why we are and what's going on. Because there are things that are going to catch your attention. For you, specifically you, and through your experience, it is the Mandela effect that's doing a lot of shifting for you. Because of it, it's introducing you to people, it's introducing you to scenarios and situations, and you're growing as an entity. Look at how much you've overcome. We were just talking on the break. Look at how much you've overcome. You're now completely self-sufficient simply because you love this topic, right? And that's really cool. But without this topic, you wouldn't have become the guy who is self-sufficient. So in this game that we're playing, without the opponent, right, there's no point in playing it because we're not getting any better. Like, and again, if you walked in and Ken was there, and you just kicked his ass, and if you just beat the game over and over and over again, you get bored of it. So there's this perfect mixture inside any video game, which is why I believe we are where we are. Where if the game's too fucking hard, we quit. If the game's too easy, we don't give a shit. The game itself has to be just the right amount of mystery, challenge, struggle. You have to lose a bunch of times, and you have to be able to reset and restart and regrow and regroup and redo these things. You have to keep going, and you have to keep going, and you have to have a time limit too. Like in Mario for Super Nintendo or for regular Nintendo, when right, the time. Oh shit, we're running out of time, right? And the thing about the time limit, because also in this game we believe in death. We believe that death is a thing because we've witnessed this person dying, right? People dying of old age. Now, here's the thing: when people say COVID, right? Because now COVID is a narrative that we can talk about. People say, I can tell you that the numbers, I believe the numbers are fake. COVID's fake, but I can also tell you that I think death is fake too. And that's the kind of thing that blows people away. I think that dying isn't real. And that to people are like, what does that even mean? I'm like, none of us know what death is. All we know is that there's a meat suit left behind, and there's no more entity inside this thing. So none of us really know what death is because none of us have experienced it.
Well, we don't even know if there's no more entity inside that thing. Part of our entity could still be inside that meat suit, and part of it could be elsewhere. We don't even know that.
But we're willing to argue over it, aren't we?
Right? Oh, I definitely think that death is not what they tell us. And I certainly somebody that thinks our energy goes on and goes somewhere else and we continue. It's just a different experience.
Yeah.
Or maybe maybe we literally just get, reincarnated back into the same type of situation, different game, different earth, whatever it is, So
maybe if you die in definition of you dying, maybe you start back at the beginning of the level, just like Mario.
Yeah. Well, that's what I said. Like, there's a lot of parallels here. If it's a simulation or if it's God's creation, I think, and then like what you said about the video game aspect, and what I have been saying, if it's like a choose your own adventure book that God laid out for us, and we make cognitive choices and we do certain things, other people just kind of stay and go with the script, and kind of like a game. If you die and you run out of extra credits and lives or whatever, and say you get reset in this realm, I think some of the accolades and some of the achievements that you've acquired in your past life, you kind of keep in the background until it gets to a certain point where you build it up over these lives and you're ready to move on to the next thing. But with the simulation idea, I'd like to talk more about it because I want some more thoughts on it from you. Like, when you say simulation, what are we talking about here? Are we talking about like literally a computer simulation? And if so, like what do you think the source is? How many times do you think this has been done? Let's expand on it a bit, because it's not something I talk about a lot, as you know, but I'm totally open and I want to pick your brain on it a little bit. So,
well, quantum computing is a thing now, right? And the idea that we sit back and we play games like The Sims and we control these things. There are keys and notes inside this whole thing. Like, we're sitting here going, we're blaming the Illuminati, right, for a lot of shit. The Bilderberg Group, the Trilateral Commission. We're over here arguing about money, and nobody gives a shit because the people that are controlling the system invented the money. So we're trying to figure this out and figure that out, right? But money's like, and everyone's like, the buck stops here. Follow the money. You hear this 1,000 times, but money. If we're focused on what the money is, we're missing the whole point of what everything is. So, quantum computing is a thing now, and there are certain things that we can do, and certain things that we've seen, and certain whatever. And when I say quantum computing is a thing now, to run a simulation as predominant as the one that we're in, or possibly in, based on the standards and understandings that we have, would be absolutely massive, right? But just like in Star Trek, I'm sure you're familiar with the character Q, right? With the snap of a finger, he gets whatever he wants. Mm-hmm. So all of the ideas that we have on absolutely every single topic ever in the history of anything we've ever been able to talk about, it's all minuscule. It's all bullshit. And you can't get an answer to something astoundingly astronomical with limited information. All you can do is extrapolate with what you've got. So we're not supposed to figure out where we are, what we're doing. We're not supposed to figure that out because the answer is irrelevant. It's like hearing your favorite song. You don't just jump to the end of the song. You enjoy the entire thing. We're not here to get the answer. We already know the answer. We knew the answer when we came here, in my opinion, right? But we came here to have the experience of figuring out who we are, to relive where we are, what we're doing, how we're doing all this sort of stuff, to find the dawn of time. This could even be like, an existential reality somewhere else. We could be like, let's, all right, history class, today on Tuesday, space date 94 Blorgen X2.
Yeah.
We're in history class, and for the next 45 minutes, you're going to play this. You're going to plug into this game, and you're going to have this entire lifetime of experiences. And on the other side of it, you're gonna write an essay. So this whole thing that we're doing right now could literally be.
That I was going to ask you that. So you do think maybe that we are like organic beings, though, and we're like observed into this like as a virtual reality rather than we're bits and bytes in a computer simulation? Is that kind of what you're describing here?
Okay, so no, I mean yes and no. I don't have any answers. I'm just saying these are thoughts that I've had. Right.
Yeah,
what I do know, what I'm allowed to know is that inside all of the building blocks of society are quarks, quarks, and quasons. Mm-hmm. So right down to the very firm basis of the atom, which is the building block of all of society. Inside the atom is quarks, quarks, and quasons. And what that means is all of this isn't physical. It's energy. We're on the holodeck.
Yeah.
And that is the information that they've given me. Now, for me to extrapolate beyond that, I would have to have information that I don't have right now.
Of course.
But when you expand and when you run, like my whole thing is about elimination. This is one of the things that people don't really understand about waking up and your awakening and all that sort of stuff. It's not about learning new stuff. It's about eliminating absolutely everything that's bullshit.
Yeah.
And when you do that, when you truly eliminate all the bullshit, you're left with a very rudimentary statement that we are energy and that energy cannot be created or destroyed. Mm-hmm. And that's the truth. So here's the real question. Well, if that's the case, which it is scientifically, as we've been allowed to know, there is no difference between my hand and the desk, right? The question is, why is my hand vibrating in this frequency to make it my hand? And why is the desk vibrating in the frequency to make it the desk? And why can't I pass through the desk? If the majority of me is built out of space anyway, there's a gap between all of the quarks, quarks, and quasons as they bounce around, which again ties back in with quantum entanglement. When you get down to that realm, the quarks, quarks, and quasons are appearing and reappearing and disappearing. Quantum mechanics dictates that things can come out of this reality and go into another one. They can, like if you picture a pool ball or pool table and you break the balls and all the balls scatter across the pool table, now the 9 ball and the 8 ball can disappear and reappear on the table. That's quantum mechanics. Right? You get down far enough and they just disappear and they reappear somewhere else. That happens on this planet, in this earth, in this reality. That's happening right now on a very molecular level. So are we meat? No. We're gifted with, what's the term? We're gifted with mortality, but we don't know what mortality is, right? I know that it looks like it'd be fucking painful if I got my arm ripped off. So I'm going to do my best not to get my arm ripped off. Right. But that's just me. Now, with that knowledge and that information that I believe that I have, I'm not going to bother going and getting my arm ripped off. So I'm not going to put myself in a situation where I can get my arm ripped off. But in Star Trek, when they beam down to someplace, they get completely destroyed and into a computer and then reassembled down on Earth or down wherever they've beamed down to. Right? Mm-hmm. Now, where did that technology come from? Who thought about that? Who thought about that? Because somebody somewhere is telling, like the Gene Roddenberry thing, they're telling people stuff. Everything on Star Trek: The Next Generation, which was total science fiction before, we're using now.
Yeah.
So it's your own brain and it's your own limitation that's telling you that death is permanent and that there are things that you should avoid doing because you're going to die. Another thing too is we have this, again, the scarcity thing. So if you want to talk about a prison planet, because that's one of the theories as well. If you want to be low vibrational, think about a prison planet, like in the movie The Matrix, right? They keep us all vibrating as low as possible in the lowest frequencies, afraid of everything, scarcity everywhere. And they harvest that energy. Right. But I mean, I look at that.
They do that. But for people like yourself and me, we can almost completely unplug from that aspect of this reality.
Yes.
You know?
And much like Neo in the Matrix, I can create my own reality. Bro, there was a time in my life where I was like, I remember being a kid and talking with my buddies in school about an episode of Seinfeld. And then later that night, that very episode was on TV. And I used to remember thinking that was weird. And I know that in my life right now, if I have certain thoughts, I can absolutely 100% physically manifest a thought almost instantly. I don't have the skill to do it on repetition. And whenever somebody hears that, they're like, well, why don't you manifest $5 million? And blah, 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 blah. I'm like, because again, money is irrelevant. If you've got all the money in the world, now you've got different problems and different things. It's not
money's not a good thing, honestly. A whole bunch of money, it's really done a lot of bad things. Look what it's done to people. It's made people go along with all sorts of lies forever. Pick your topic, because they're afraid. And even people that aren't shills and whatever. You look at all the people you might even know, like your own families that might work in hospitals that didn't say nothing because they were afraid they'd lose their job. I mean, the money's the root of evil.
Agreed.
A lot of that shit.
Yeah, not money itself, but the desire for money. But yeah, I know a lot of people that shut up. I know a lot of people that didn't, though. I know a lot of people that opened their mouths and lost their jobs.
Good.
And I say good for you, because they're like, but the normies will say, well, how are they going to feed themselves? Man, it's not about the money. It's about overcoming. It's about becoming the person who fights the battles. Again, it's this game. Every single thing, and here's like my absolute bottom line when I say you remove everything. My absolute bottom line is every single thing is happening right here for every single person to have the experience that they're having so that they themselves can become the version that they need to become. There are humans here. There are probably hosts here. There are probably some sort of reptilians here. There are probably some sort of everything. There's probably a multitude, a facet, a bunch of different entities that are all playing this game, that are all doing this thing, that are all having these experiences. And there are people out there that want to fight me for having this opinion. And I'm totally cool with that, because that's your job. And if you didn't want to fight me, I wouldn't have to explain myself. And if I didn't have to explain myself, I wouldn't fully understand what I'm doing more and more.
Yeah.
And it's the same with the podcast. When I started my podcast, and when I started my Instagram, I started an Instagram with the intent on giving the people what they wanted. And the funny thing about that is anything that I could have thought they wanted was just me thinking. So it was me just assuming I knew what they wanted based on what I understood and what I had observed from the algorithm, which is all just a lie. My shit didn't catch fire until I started just simply speaking on what I wanted to speak on. And then I realized even at that point in time that it was absolutely never about the people that I was trying to attract. It was about
you.
It was about me growing as an entity. And the fact that I'm on this is episode 205, the fact that I'm on episode 205, and speaking of censorship, I've had episodes pulled talking about, people not saying anything in the hospitals to keep their gigs. I had episodes pulled when I lost my other show, completely lost it. I specifically pulled off the adrenochrome episode, right? Because I'm like, that was probably the one that got us dinged, because on the other show, we had over 200,000 downloads on one episode, right? Wow. And then they pulled us. We had a 28 episode run. On episode 8, we had over 200,000 downloads. And then the podcast in its entirety blew up when Spotify bought Anchor. So even I've self-censored here. And self-censorship is an interesting thing too, because in the third dimension, self-censorship is what all of the bots want you to do. Like YouTube, for example, could blow you up, but the world would be like, hey, they blew up Brian. So Brian must have been onto something. But if you self-censor, then you still stay there and you don't talk about the topics that you used to talk about, or you change certain things, or you go away for a bit. And the people think, oh, maybe he's changed his mind. So self-censor in and of itself is part of the system. It's part of the algorithm. It's part of the way that the big machine, keeps you quiet and keeps you from spreading the word.
Oh, it's what I tell people every time they get me to 2 strikes. Then what they'll do is they don't want to terminate my channel. What they'll do is they'll keep removing videos, but say, we know that you just got your 2nd strike and we want to keep you on YouTube. And I got pages and pages of emails like that, where I've had like over 100 videos deleted in one night. They already had me on 2 strikes, but they want to keep you around because they want you to self-censor. And they want you to stick around. They want you to waste and focus your energy on creating backup channels and doing all these things. That's what they actually want to do. And
when you do that, you're giving them your energy. You're pouring your energy into that thing, just like those machines that are usurping the energy of the humans in the Matrix. It's getting our energy.
That's why I told people, even though I have a couple backup channels with a few thousand subs each, I'm not doing it this time. I'm not playing that game. I'm just going to shut my channel down for 3 months and focus on my other platforms. I'm not doing that. I'm not self-censoring myself. Just absolutely not going to happen. And I've talked about this so many times to people that's YouTube's strategy. It's been their strategy forever. Actually, I talked about it before I ever did YouTube videos. That's why I never did videos when YouTube was blowing up, because I could see what was happening with YouTube and Facebook and what was happening to the internet. And, you know, back in the day, people used to really spend time going around to different people's websites and forums and all these places to research things. Facebook and YouTube came in, made it all cool looking and stuff, and basically centralized everybody to then make people self-censor themselves or completely pull the rug out on people if they see they need to. It's completely ridiculous. Yeah. Try getting somebody to click anything that's not a YouTube link, like when you're on, you know what I mean? Like, it's like people don't want to go anywhere and look at anything. They just want to stay on these gigantic platforms, and they want to play with their game and acquiesce their game. Or, you know, I can't, you know, even though people hear me talk about the Mandela effect all the time, I have to be able to say COVID's a hoax, 9/11. You know, I have to get into all these things on my channels. I'm not self-censoring myself, you know, absolutely not. The best they'll get out of me now is, you know, I'll probably still upload my Mandela effect short videos that are just residue and stuff. Things like that I'll try to upload. But my live streams, I'm not even going to put them on YouTube while I have strikes on my channels, because they're just going to keep hammering it. Yeah. I'm not playing that game. And that's why I tell people, you got to spread out. And there's a lot of people out there, Adam, that will not leave YouTube. And it's not very hard, if you're not a content creator, to just go to another website and watch people. Like, you guys need to understand that the YouTube game is broken. Like, I can't play that game. You know, people, I've done it for like the last month because it worked out to where I was strike free for like a month. It never lasts, though, you know, so you can't put your eggs in that basket. If I put all my eggs in the YouTube basket and never spread out, I would hardly ever be live, because I'd always be down on strikes, no matter how many channels I have.
Yeah. No, and that's it. And so that's algorithmic, right? So the question, you know, again, where are we? That's the ultimate question. You know, where are we? What are we doing? Why am I conscious? Why am I aware of this? And the further I go down this road, the further I'm gonna have these understandings. Like right now, we know what we know, and we're talking about what we're talking about based on the information, the experiences that we've had. It's neat to talk about this, and somebody who's going to listen to you talk about self-censorship, especially on the YouTube platform, and then me talk about it on Instagram. I keep getting bumped down on Instagram, no matter what. Like, they're pulling stuff from 2020, 2019. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I'm just like, so I'm getting a full strike, like a full restriction for something that went up 3-4 years ago. I don't have any idea what this is. Right. So I play along with that a little bit too. Like, there's that, you know, that whole thing where I'm sure you're privy to the piece of information where the food packaging plants, they all burnt down. Yeah. So there was a clip on it, and I was like, oh, okay. So they're talking about it. So what I did was I copied all of the dates and locations, and I took all of the information out. And my addition to that was, here you go. Here's some dates. Yep. And here's some locations. Do what you want with it. And then the Facebook is like, this is false information based on something, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, there's no information. This is just dates and locations. Do what you want with these dates and locations. And Facebook, the big ultimate algorithm, is going to come and try and dissuade certain people. And the funny thing about that is, there are people out there that will always believe Facebook over something else. Like, are you literally going to, I personally find it hard to believe that there are people that are going to listen to a tag over like their own family, their own blood. You know, I have a hard time believing that, but I know that there are people out there that'll do that.
You know, that's the case. Yeah, dude, it's wild, dude.
Why? You know, the funniest thing in the world is it doesn't happen that much anymore. But I used to love the absurdity of somebody telling me that they debunked what I said through Snopes.
Oh, dude,
that was the best. They're like, I did a quick Google search, and the first thing that popped up was this debunking. I'm like, really? So the very first thing that you came across was a debunking of the interesting thing that I said. And because you saw it on a website called Snopes, don't even get me started on who's running Snopes, but because you saw it on you did so much research, you punched in, you clicked on the first thing you saw, which was Snopes, and you went with it. Right now, we all know that all of the search engines and all of the algorithms are all against everybody at all times. The funniest thing in the world was people being shocked that whatever that other one was no good anymore.
DuckDuckGo.
DuckDuckGo. They're like, oh my God, DuckDuckGo is bad. I'm like, man, they're all bad. there's nothing left. But the thing is, even everything that we're trying to search is algorithmically incorrect. It's inside you. You want to, people word things a certain way to find out certain things. I mean, me personally, like I said, I don't care. I'm interested that it's taking place, but every single thing that could ever possibly take place is taking place inside one thing, which is all of this. So it's not like I can be upset. Like Snopes is garbage. The internet's garbage. Everything's garbage. I'm utilizing what I've got for the ability to cognitively speak on what I want to speak on. My podcasts are my favorite thing in the entire world, especially not especially, but I love my solo casts where it's just me ranting. It's not really ranting. I'm just sort of, I'm downloading, I'm unloading what's inside my mind, and I'm having the opportunity to think about it and talk more about it. I love doing solo shows. I love my guest shows as well too. I mean, this stuff is like, we're almost 2 hours into this, and like, there's no, it's a wonderful thing. And another thing too is, think about this and think about the phones. Like you and I right now, we're doing a podcast, and it's going to be 2 hours or more by the time we're done. And that's going to go out, and people pay like $30 to go to the movies and watch a 2 hour movie. Right. And you and I just gave free content to thousands of people, 2 hours. And nobody bats an eye at that. They're like, oh, well, that's just a thing. But when you sort of really break it down, I do a lot of these shows, and I love this. I love that the internet's brought me to you. I love that you and I can connect that we never would have before. I love that even without the internet, like I don't spend 2 hours talking to anyone about this stuff. Right. So even though this is 2 hours going out to the people, it's 2 hours of me enjoying myself. Right. This conversation. There are we've all had those interviews.
These type of conversations, they're therapeutic for me in a big way. To be able to talk with open-minded people like yourself and some of the guests I've had on lately, like it's really therapeutic for me.
100%. So that's why the podcast, and that's why creating is therapy.
Yeah, it's so much. It's so therapeutic to let it out.
And I wouldn't have these conversations with the people that are in my immediate circle. I don't have the luxury of calling a buddy and having this conversation for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's because, we're driven to do it, or, I just sort of look around and maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just my circle of influence is not where I need it to be. I don't know. But the podcast, the guests, obviously the recurring guests such as yourself, 2% of my entire audience. That's you right there.
Yeah.
I like that. And, the new guests, I get to meet new people that I've never spoken to before, and they've got their great ideas, and I get the opportunity to sit down and have a conversation with them. What other profession would allow that? What other lifestyle would have you talk to a perfect stranger for a couple hours about some shit?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, the internet is garbage, right? But because the internet exists, great things have come from it. Great opportunities, great everything. So really everything is a result of what it is, not what it is that you're looking at, but how it is that you're choosing to look at it. Everyone's up in arms. DuckDuckGo is garbage. I'm like, and are we surprised? Like, who cares? Right. I posted, prime example, I posted on Instagram a great video of a guy surfing. He's on a surfboard. He caught a really cool wave, and he's got two dogs with him on the surfboard. And it's just a video of the guy catching the wave. The wave comes in. He crouches down. One dog jumps over him to the front of the board and balances. It's really cool. The other dog jumps up onto his shoulders and chills on his shoulders like a scarf. And the man surfs the board in. It's really cool. It's a really cool video. And I posted that, and I said, I know somebody is going to make a comment that the dogs don't have life jackets on, right? Because somebody needs to be a hero at all times in any given situation. So many people, hundreds of people watched that video. I got, well over 500 likes almost right away on the video, which meant people were paying attention to it. People were seeing it. And I'm like, I know there's one guy that's going to be like, well, what about? And I felt like commenting on that too, being like, listen, man, there's a high likelihood that these dogs have been doing this for a long time. And when they were young, they had the vests on, but they've been swimming for the past 5 years of their lives, and they know how to handle a crashing wave.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's not up to me to talk to that guy about that thing, because he doesn't give a shit. He doesn't give a shit at all. This guy doesn't want my opinion. He wants his opinion coming out of my mouth, right? He wants to be right. And it's that mentality and it's that frequency. He can chill with his friends and he can be right and he can do his thing. Like this guy, whoever he is, if he also listens to the show, he knows he made that comment. And now he's got, he's got 5 minutes of my airtime, me talking about it.
He's the same guy that if he saw you in public without a mask on, he'd probably tell you to put one on because you're going to kill people.
Maybe. But I would actually say he probably isn't that guy, because remember, I'm 6'2", 280 pounds with a big beard. Right? If he saw me in public, he probably wouldn't approach me at all.
Yeah.
But if I was 5'8", he might approach me and try to run his mouth.
Yeah.
Right? These guys typically they'll only physically and publicly say something to you if they feel that they're superior or above or could handle. And a lot of people see me and they don't see that. They don't think that. So I mean, it is an interesting thing, because again, that's all perception and perspective. And the funny thing about that statement is it's not even his perception. It's actually my perception of his perception, which again is literally just me thinking. So it really all comes back down to me. So who's in control of all this, right? Great question. Who, if we keep saying the nefarious they and this, that, and the other thing, there's a lot of clues out there. There's a lot of things that could point to a certain thing. And I have a really interesting idea that perhaps this was built a long time ago as a testing ground for a lot of things. Now, one of the possibilities is that you and I are bots and we're just kind of becoming self-aware, but we're not part of anyone's major story. So we're just chilling in the background, because without background characters, all movies would be shit. So maybe we're just background characters. Maybe we're side missions. But the truth is, you and I are on a path that started whenever it started and it ends when we die. So we don't know what life is. We don't know what death is, but we do know that we understand roughly what a year is. And we can arbitrarily say for the next 40 of those years, you and I are going to be 80 some odd. And then we're going to be like, at 84 years old, you're going to be like, God damn, I figured it out. Right. But in the interim, so much is going to change. And there's going to be so much new information and so much this and so much that no matter where we get to in 40 years from now, there's going to be all that new stuff that we're going to then be trying to compile and figure out and set down. But that's the thing. You're here right now to have this experience. So there is no end game. There is no end result. Like we're not here to get to the end. We're here to experience. And we have to experience that guy telling me that the dogs aren't going to do it. And I know that. Now, here's an interesting question. If I hadn't thought in my head that guy was going to make that comment, would he have made the comment?
Would it have happened?
Yeah, exactly. That's manifestation. I'm like, I knew as soon as I put that up, I'm like, there's going to be a fucking hero. There it was. But had I not thought that. And we're back now from break number 2. I could have been more smooth with them, but I was on rants and I was running out of breath. And then Brian needed more coffee. And he's like, I got to go to the bathroom. And I was like, you know what? I do too. So this is the first podcast in 205 where I actually took a bathroom break. If you can believe it, this is my very first bathroom break podcast.
Dude, are you serious, man?
100%, man. It's the weirdest thing. Like I'll sit down and I'll just knock it out. Right. And I wouldn't have even gone to the bathroom, but you're like, I got to go. And I'm like, oh, well, I guess I do too then. Right. So talk about the power of suggestion. There it is. So
I manifested urination.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a urination manifestation. It's out of control. And so, I mean, that is what we were talking about. And when you go into sort of manifestation and that sort of thing, people have a hard time believing that you can manifest whatever you want. But the truth is, with all of our limiting beliefs, which is basically we're built out of 100% of limiting beliefs, we've manifested what we could. Our lives, anyone listening to the show is literally living everything that they've manifested. They manifested all of this. And people be like, well, I didn't manifest this. I didn't manifest that. You took the information that you were given. You took all of that was around you, all of the stuff that was everywhere in your specific and personal life, and you did what you could with that information. Therefore, you currently have, and what you currently are surrounded by is a result of all of the effort you've put in with all of the knowledge that you've had. If you're not happy with where you are, the only thing missing between you and where you want to be is new knowledge. So just simply add new knowledge and remove bullshit, and you'll get to where you want to be faster.
Yeah.
I like that. And we could probably even wrap it on this. I mean, we've been 2.5 hours. If we go much longer, we might just start getting bored and falling asleep. It's been a long day. It's been a long day.
Yeah. That's cool, man. We can wrap it up, but we'll do it again. I'll have you on my show within the next couple of months. At some point this summer, I'll have you on my show.
Good. I'll look forward to that. And I think we had a lot of fun. I think you've got a set of links, right? That I can just you can just copy and paste, and I can just send that out.
Yeah, I'll send them to you and audibly, just so people hear. Brian S. Staveley, Staveley, basically on every platform. And if you want a website, Dose of Reality Show, doseofrealityshow.com, and just click all the links page, and that will take you to whatever you need. My email, my Telegram, my different video platforms.
Well, I'll just drop that in there. Doseofreality.com.
Doseofrealityshow.com. I'll send you
Doseofrealityshow.com. That's your links. Okay. So is that like a link tree? Are you still allowed to use those?
It's actually my website that I built in 2010, but I don't really do anything on it now. But I still just built a web page to put all my links on it. But it's on my site. It's not a link tree thing.
Yeah. Well, there's a new one out there, and ladies and gentlemen, if you've heard about this one too, Koji. We're going to start working with them. And that's a neat one too for content creators to get paid, to get tips, to get this, to get that, to connect with people and that sort of thing. So Koji is a good one to get out there.
Koji,
like a link, like it's like a link tree, but there's money involved, so it's good for creators.
Good. Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Even though we just tied all this in and wrapped it all up, I will say this in the infamous words of Red Green: keep your stick on the ice.
Thank you for listening to today's Mental Mastery Alliance podcast. Let the team know you're listening by using the hashtag MMA and Mental Mastery Alliance. Want more motivation? Be sure to follow online on Instagram at Mental Mastery Alliance and on Facebook at Mental Mastery Alliance. And remember, your perception creates your reality. Make it a great day.
You got it, Pontiac.